So guys, one of the videos that's going to be premiering the week of Christmas, basically on the 21st of December, that is, basically in 20 days, by the time you watch this. Well, it would have been 20 days because I'm recording this on the last day of November, and this video will premiere on the 22nd of December. Yeah, it's going to be a little ways away, but hopefully it'll be worth it for you guys and all that when you get the opportunity to see it. But what I may do is separate a lot of the whole video into 3 parts like I've done in the past, or several parts anyway. But the reason I say this is because one of the videos that's coming out on the 21st is the entire 4-part Tales Love Life series that I did back in 2008. Now, in case you guys are wondering what that is, what the Tales Love Life series is, well, I did another series prior to that called the Sonic Love Life series. And mainly what these were multi-part videos that I did back when I got this channel going, where I talked about the love interest that the characters were involved in as far as the Archie Sonic book is concerned. For example, Sonic, I ran the gambit with him. I went with Amy, Sally, and Fiona. Those are the 3 main love interests. With Tails went up a little bit more. He had one more. He had, Fiona, he had Barbara Koala, he had Little Moon, and he had Mina Mongoose. So now the question obviously is, who's left? Well, for a while, everybody's been saying and asking me, do Sally Acorn, do her. Do a Love Life series on Sally. Well, you know what, guys? Your wish is granted, because here today, on the 30th, the last day of November, I'm going to do basically exactly that. I am going to give you guys what you've been wanting. I'm going to look at Sally's love life, and yes, believe it or not, this will be in several parts. But what's interesting is who is involved. And obviously, I think you all know who's going to be involved. But except there will be a surprise at the end, because the last one I'll talk about is something of a romance. And I've talked about it before, that came out of the blue, not just entirely in the pre-reboot times of the book, but mostly afterwards. And believe me, I was surprised about it as much as you were. But that's what's going to happen here. That's what we're going to do here. So without further ado, guys, let me introduce you and welcome you to the Sally Love Life series that you will see in complete video form on the 22nd of December. But as we build towards it, you will see all 4 parts today. The complete video form, all 4 parts as one video, will be presented to you on, like I said, December 22nd. But the individual parts will be given to you this week, today, hopefully, if not tomorrow. So without further ado, guys, let's go in to Sally's love life and talk about each of them one by one. Alright, so the first character, obviously, we got to talk about is Sonic. Sonic and Sally's relationship has been one since the beginning of not just the comic book, but of the animated series known as Sonic Satayam itself. And this has been one of those relationships, not just in cartoons, but, as well as in comics, but franchises overall, that seems very, very well received. Yes, it does have its detractors. We're not going to deny that. We do know that there are fans out there that do not like this pairing. But when you get down to it, it's a pairing that everybody, whether or not they like putting romance into comics or shows based on these kind of franchises or not, that even people like, let's say, Ian Flynn are supportive of. And, when you look at Sally's relationship with Sonic, it's one of those relationships that just works. It just works, basically, because both of them are perfect foils to each other. Both of them know from a mischievous, sometimes fun-loving way and tolerable way how to push each other's buttons, but not to an annoyance kind of manner, or a manner that basically makes one disdain the other, but more of a fun-loving kind of way. I mean, one of the things, obviously, that gets carried over into other Sonic series at that time is Sonic's impatience-ness. I mean, because here's the thing, Sally, you got to give her a lot of credit for being patient with him. Especially when it comes to his impatience-ness. I mean, if you go back and you watch Sonic and the Secret Scrolls, and they're sitting on that magic chair or couch that's going to lift off, take him over the wall to get to the entrance where the scrolls are, you see him just sitting there and everything, and all of a sudden he just folds his arm and starts tapping his foot like, come on, let's go. Because his characteristic is he's fast. And by being fast, he's very impatient about things. I mean, there's even a scene in one of the episodes, I don't know if it's the first or second season, I go, look, where Sally says, give him a minute, or ask Sonic to wait a minute so they can check something out here, thanks to Nicole. And Sonic's like, 30 seconds is my limit. Because he's fast. He wants things done here and now. He wants to get things done here and now. And Sally is very tolerable about that. But it also works in the other way, because Sonic is very tolerable of her. Like, he knows she's the way she is because that's how she was trained, that's how she was raised and stuff. So he's accepting of it. He's tolerable about it. So they work out fine with each other. They know how to, like I said, they know each other's quirks. They know how to, fun-lovingly push each other's buttons to kind of, get the other one to understand, hey, I get where you're coming from, but this is how I am. You got to just, wait for it. You got to accept it. And it works out. It works out in the end, because even at the end of the series, the animated series, you pretty much know that they're gonna, you pretty much know that they are now an item, because Sally is basically telling Sonic, hey, if you're gonna do this, I'm going with you, because you basically mean more to me than just as a friend kind of deal, which Sonic does understand. And like I said, gotta put it in here. When they use those deep power stones, you can't tell me when Sally wanted to go for a kiss that part of that power stone didn't just give her Sonic speed temporarily, but it gave her a bit of his mischievous side, his personality, in a sense, to want to do something that was like, whoa, wait a minute kind of deal. That maybe we shouldn't do that. So, you gotta admit that was kind of fun to look at and kind of see. But the point that I'm getting at, long story short, the point I'm getting at is this relationship, even in the animated series, was perfect. It worked out, greatly. But then you look at, let's say, the comic book. And the comic book, I admit, took it to another level with these two. The comic book basically put them in ups and down situations to where, sometimes the relationship was on, sometimes it was off, sometimes, it was on and off, sometimes it was mutually agreed to put it to the side for the time being. It was one of those kind of relationships that you knew one way or another they were going to end up together. And when they did, fans were happy. They rejoiced on it. A majority did. I mean, I even go on record and say when I saw the cover for, 123, I was happy. I was like, yes, finally. These two are together, finally. I was able to be happy about that. When I saw 222, I was like, yes, finally. Because, Ian Flynn, to his credit, was building up to that. He was building up to that moment. So, either way, when you look at it, it's one of those relationships that just works. It just works, and there's nothing more you can say about that. It just works. It's a perfect blending of two personalities coming together, working out each other's differences to make the relationship work, as well as being very tolerable and accepting of some of the quirks and personality like moments that the characters have. So the relationship she has with Sonic is great. And like I said, she is the perfect foil to Sonic, no matter how you look at it. No matter how you look at it, she's the perfect foil to Sonic the Hedgehog, and I like it. I like it. I mean, you always have to, when you look at couples and franchises, you're always going to have the female, you gotta always have the female behind somebody as a love interest that's gonna tolerate who they are. Lois is the same. Lois is with that with Superman, with Clark, Selena Kyle to an extent with Batman Bruce, Mary Jane to an extent with Peter. You kind of get the idea. And when you look at those kind of relationships and you wonder why they work, it's because both characters complement each other very, very well, and the same is said for Sonic and Sally. And that is why when you look at Sally's relationship with Sonic, whether you like it or you don't, it's one of those that works perfectly in context. And that's why we start off here with Sonic the Hedgehog in Sally's Love Life video series. And now we're going to go on to number 2. Alright, the second character on the list is one that a lot of fans never really liked from the start, and especially when he got portrayed as being something unexpected thanks to his alliance or revealed alliance with a certain wizard. Yeah, that really didn't help anything, and of course we're talking about Geoffrey St. John. Now, Geoffrey St. John was introduced in the backup stories, I think of issue 18 and 19, that were prelude stories to the Princess Sally miniseries. And he was introduced as another love interest for her, which was the end result at the end when he shared a kiss with her to close out the Princess Sally miniseries. Now, the miniseries, according to Ken Penders and various other sources, was meant to basically see whether or not there was room on the plate to do a Sally portion of the franchise. In other words, a Sally comic, Sally merchandise, stuff like that, which of course I think was being test run at that time, around that time frame in Sydney, Australia, with the Sonic and Sydney Live stuff. But anyway, Geoffrey, like I said, was introduced, as a new love interest. And throughout his various appearances in the comic after the miniseries, he would always greet Sally with a kiss. He would always greet her with a kiss. Sometimes it would be on the lips, right in front of Sonic, or it'd be on the lips in front of some of Sonic's friends, who would even basically kind of, mention to themselves that Sonic will not like seeing this. He'll even be a little flirtatious with Sally, and then, of course, Sonic will take it the wrong way, as we see in the Super Special number 2, Brave New World. He was just that kind of a character to where basically he felt he was the better option for Sally. I mean, even when he thought Sonic had killed Sally in Endgame, until it was revealed by Dulcie that Sonic was telling the truth about what was really going on, because dragons can sense the truth, he basically told Sonic, "You killed the woman I love," still not accepting that Sally was Sonic's gal, and that was pretty much proven at the end of Endgame, period. And, Geoffrey, like I said, was just one of those characters that, even after that, and even after all those moments that I mentioned that happened before and afterwards, where he would greet Sally with a kiss or flirt with her or whatever, you could tell he still had a thing for her. And I bring this up a lot, in some videos, like recently in the past year, where when you look back during the issues of, 89, 90, something like that, I can't really remember, where basically you had the freedom fighters go back to school at the order of the, at the time, temporary king, Sally's brother, Elias, who was getting advice from Geoffrey St. John. Geoffrey St. John had basically had taken over as advisor to Elias. So anyway, long story short, long story short, Jeffrey in that issue, to me, was trying to make himself look good in front of the royal family so that whenever the king would get better and kind of take back over, he would hear about, Jeffrey's wisdom that he gave Elias in his stead, and that Jeffrey would be rewarded possibly with Sally's hand in marriage. That's basically the way I look at it, because there are several moments in that story arc, where the characters are getting some new looks, like Bunny's got a Daisy Duke like design and stuff. And it's one of those scenarios to where, like I said, Sonic usually is used to going to the castle without a problem to see Sally, whatever, right? But in this arc, he's prevented from doing so thanks to Jeffrey by asking, well, do you have an appointment? And Sonic's like, and Sonic's reaction is, when do I ever need an appointment? And Jeffrey just shuts the door on him saying, well, she's royalty, And again, when you think about it, that's just another way in context of the story to kind of realize that what Jeffrey's doing is not just making himself look better, which of course comes back to bite him and his team, unfortunately, along with him. But it's also his way of trying to, like I say, make himself look good so he could potentially convince, or believe and maybe even convince the king when the real king, Sally's father, once he gets back into power, to be like, I would like to have your daughter's hand in marriage, or I'd like to be her new consort, or whatever the case may be. Basically try to get to be Sally's love again. Which, of course, like I said, all this backfired in his face. But yeah, Jeffrey was another love interest of hers. Another love interest. And for a while, him and Sonic always had this rivalry. That is, because of not just ego and wanting to prove who was the better hero and the better servant of the kingdom, but also the fact of who was the better choice for Sally. Now, thankfully, this would all come to an end when Jeffrey and Hershey finally married, or finally became an item and then married eventually, which a lot of fans were wanting because they see Hershey show up and they're like, oh yeah, this works perfectly. Because they saw how she is, they saw how Jeffrey is, they saw the homage, obviously, to Pepe and Penelope, and they're like, make it work. Make it work, see what happens. And it did. They went through with it. They put them together as an item, and the rest is history. But again, it wasn't until that moment where Jeffrey and Hershey became an item, because Jeffrey finally, because here's the thing, Jeffrey and Hershey, along with some of the team, were put in these tubes after being infected with some kind of virus, trying to basically prove that the Secret Service was better than the Freedom Fighters and Jeffrey was better than Sonic. That's, Jeffrey has a moment of clarity that he let his ego get the best of him because he wanted to prove he was better than Sonic, not just as, a hero, but as someone that potentially could win Sally's heart. And Hershey's the one that wakes him up and says, look, you are a hero, but you're a hero to me and your team. But and that's what made him realize, oh, I'm a hero to you. And again, the rest is history. The rest is history. But yeah, Jeffrey being a love interest for Sally and then going to the extent that he did, was it a popular choice by Ken Penders at that time? No. Was it a popular choice by, anybody involved with the comic at the time? No. But it was, again, it was something that from a comic book perspective, kept it more intriguing. It kept it more interesting for the fans. It kept it more interesting, more intriguing for the fans to watch and pay attention to and read and find out what's going to happen next and see how it would affect Sonic and Sally's relationship outside of that. But yeah, Jeffrey was the second one. He was the second one, and that's all I can say on it. Now we're going to go on to number 3, and number 3 was a little bit more tolerable than Jeffrey, but not as accepted. All right, so the next character on the list at number 3 is Monkey Kahn, a.k.a. Ken Kahn. Now, this was a character that got introduced basically around I would say the 20th issues, 30th issues, who took Sally, as his own because he wasn't, basically convinced or knowledgeable about, hey, you can't just force somebody to be with you kind of deal. And, thankfully he would come to this understanding, as ruler of a kingdom of the Iron Dominion or whatever basically the Iron Dominion kingdom and all that. He'd become more of an understanding of this. And he would make very few appearances, here and there. He'd come back here and there. But it wasn't until basically issue 2001, the start of the Iron Dominion arc, that we would see the return of Monkey Kahn, a.k.a. Kahn. Basically, Ken was the name that not Ken, but Ian Flynn had given him, I guess, to make him more relatable. And what was interesting is, though, at first, it didn't seem like anything would happen. But as we got towards issue 207, that's when things started to get a little bit more intriguing. Ken Kahn, Monkey Kahn would spend time with Sally just talking and everything. And suddenly the talks ended up turning this new friendship they were having, or they had developed in the past, but they were now developing more so into something more. And thus, at the end of 207, it became established that they had become an item. But here's the thing, like I said before, the Monkey Kahn, Ken Kahn, Sally relationship was more along the lines of what you would see in those Saved by the Bell movies back in the 90s, like Hawaiian Style and stuff. Like in Hawaiian Style, like I said, there was this love interest for Zach Morris that had a child. She was a bit older, but they were very fond of each other. And they had fallen for each other. But after the movie was over, we never saw her again. Even though it was hinted at that Zach, after graduating, would come back to her, we never saw her again. And then in the Saved by the Bell summer job episodes that they did, where the kids had a job on a summer beach at a resort, Zach fell for his boss's daughter, and she fell for him. But after that, we never saw her again. And they even introduced another character to kind of replace the Kelly and Jesse characters when Elizabeth and Tiffany were gone. And, even though she fell for Zach and vice versa, again, temporary, after that character was removed, we never heard from her again. These were all temporary relationships that they could have gone down more with, in certain directions, or continued the stories for, if you will. But they never did. They just did them for one and done situations, in these episodes or the movie, and that was it. And as I've mentioned before, the way that relates to Sally and Monkey Kahn, Ken Kahn's relationship, is very similar. Because all the relationship was building up to basically the official get-togetherness at 207. All it was being done. Excuse me, hold on for a sec. All it was being done as a temporary relationship for the story arc. It was a one and done deal that they were doing for the story arc. They weren't dragging it on like they tried to do with Jeffrey St. John. It was a one and done deal. Yeah, they would hint back at it, once in a while. Like when Sally needed advice about her date with Sonic, she went across the world via warp ring portal, to see if Monkey Kahn, Ken Kahn can give her some advice, as well as check up on things. But that was it. Nothing more. Did they both share a kiss? Oh yeah, they shared a kiss. There's no doubt they shared a kiss. But the thing is, like I said, the way it relates to those relationships that you would see in shows like the original Saved by the Bell with the Hawaiian Style movie, the summer job episodes, and even that episode with that one character that showed up to kind of fill in for Jesse and Tiffany's characters, if you will. Well, not Jesse, but Elizabeth Berkley and Tiffany's characters, Jesse and Kelly. They were all run and done relationships that were just done for the story arcs, well, for those episodes. And that was it. We never heard anything from them. But here's the thing. Monkey Kahn was more accepted by the fans. Not as much, but not as much, well, let me put it this way. He was more accepting a little bit, hold on for a sec. what I'm trying to say here is Monkey Kahn was more accepted and tolerable, or tolerated, I should say, than Jeffrey was by the fans. And this was all due to the fact that Sonic, in story, was tolerable about Monkey Kahn's relationship with Sally. Because I think Sonic being like our eyes, if you will, being the main character, because of course the comic's named after him, kind of knew it was just a temporary deal. He knew it. He knew it. And at the end of the arc, the entire arc, what happened? Who ended up back together? Or at least beginning the building blocks to that happening again? Sally and Sonic. And that was it. Because the relationship was a temporary deal. It was a temporary one and done deal. Now, in story, did it do a lot of good, if you will? In the story, did it do what it was supposed to do? And that's help Sally realize, what she had with Sonic, no matter what the situation, that what she had with Sonic was something that was special, and that the reason they were together that was because they were very tolerable and everything with each other. Absolutely. I mean, she's mentioned to Jeffrey, she's mentioned to Monkey Kahn. She said it to Jeffrey when she first met him, but she also mentioned it to Monkey Kahn, Ken Kahn, after his return in the Iron Dominion arc, and even after kind of the relationship was being established, short term, one and done deal, if you will, that he had very similar characteristics to Sonic, which again in story opened up her eyes and made her realize, oh, this is why I fell for Sonic. This is why I ended up with him, because he might be a little brash and a little hurriness, if you will, but it's what made her fall for him. I mean, heck, her mom tells her the damn same thing, in 222. She does. But yeah, his purpose as a love interest for Sally was a one and done deal. And yes, it did serve its main purpose as well in story was to make her realize what she had with Sonic and at least attempt to rekindle it once more. And this time do it correctly, do it in a way to where even if there was issues, there were problems, they'd be able to work it out in a very understanding, like, okay, this is how you are, I get it, so let me see if we can do it this way, kind of deal. But yeah, Monkey Kahn was more accepted and more tolerated as another love interest outside of Sonic than Jeffrey was. So he had that going for him. And who knows what would have happened with his character, had the comic continued, but we'll see. So on to our next one. And our next one, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, is one that surprised us all when it was revealed officially by Ian of how blatant they were able to get away with it. But it's something that was also teased in the pre-reboot portion of the book, but more so really implemented and implied in the soft reboot. All right, so our fourth and final one, if you will, in this Love Life series, which will also be, like I said, comprised into one video you will see on the 22nd of December. We're going to talk about Nicole. That's right, Nicole the Lynx. Now you might be asking yourself, why Nicole? Why is she on this list? Well, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting, and I've talked about this before in previous videos. But Nicole basically is, a character that, of course, originally started as an AI handheld computer in the animated series, as well as, basically began as a handheld computer through different variations, if you will, in the comics before getting her established iconic AI computer handheld in the comic later on. Now, what's interesting, though, is there was a issue. I don't know what issue it was. I think it was like in the 150s or something like that. It was a little after the Line of Succession story arc. I think it was a little after that somebody had come on board. A new artist and I think a new writer had come on board. Gave this story arc, or this little short story called Stargazing, a little bit of an anime look, if you will, for Sally. And the reason it was given an anime look was because it was introducing us to Nicole's Lynx form for the first time. That's right, Nicole's Lynx form debuted in Stargazing. And basically it was just a temporary deal that Nicole in story had basically mentioned that she had been working on for a while. It was a program that she had been working on herself to try to give herself a new body, or give herself a body for the first time officially. And the reason for this is it goes back to a backup story to where, thanks to a electric shock, if you will, caused both her and Sally to switch bodies. That's right. Sally in that story had switched bodies with Nicole. So Sally ended up becoming the portable AI computer, and Nicole took over her body. And what was interesting about Sally being in the AI computer is you could tell she was upset about it, but also taking on a little bit of the elements of being in the computer. Like she was able to think a little faster, say things that normally she wouldn't say, techno-babble-wise, if you will. And Nicole was more like in just embracing this new atmosphere, like, oh my gosh, this is so cool and everything. She couldn't believe it. And then when she saw, Sonic, when she was in Sally's body, she was wondering what was going on, what was this feeling she was having being around Sonic. But then that all was but basically that was temporary because, she was, the body switch was only a temporary deal because she ended up going back to her AI deal and Sally was back in her body. And Nicole basically told Sonic, when Sonic was wondering what was going on, Nicole kind of brushed it off and then joked around, did anybody tell you look good for a hedgehog or something like that, or you're good looking for a hedgehog, which kind of surprised Sonic. And again, it's basically, and again, the story was that Sally temporarily being in Nicole's body was, not happy about it, but taking on some of the traits of thinking fast and talking certain, techno babbles she wouldn't normally do, and Nicole feeling the way she did, getting these emotions and stuff, being in Sally's body. And that is what basically led to the stargazing story that we got. Basically, it was a continuation of that, where Nicole now wanted to know what it was like to have her own body. And so ever since that moment, she had been working on a program to give herself a body outside of the portable handheld that she was normally a part of. And this would be something that would be on and off, to where basically, as the story would go on, Nicole would basically develop the program a little stronger and more efficient, to where as long as she was like in a certain area, like like a lab or a computer room, she can exist outside of the portable, but also mainly exist inside computer elements. Like there's an issue where Sonic and where Sonic and Shadow get digitized to go into this damaged disc that Shadow has because he wants to know the truth about his past finally, and Nicole is in there with them, and Sonic is like completely in shock, like, holy smoke, Nicole, is that you? And she kind of shyly explains that, oh yeah, it's me, I've been working on this. And Sonic's like, oh cool, I like it, I like the look. He's kind of flirting with her, and her being a little bashful, like, she's like, thank you and everything, until Shadow has to get their attention again. The guy goes like, hey guys, can we tail that for later, we got stuff to do. But yeah, she, in continuity had been building up the body for a while, in and out of the computer, if you will, but only in certain areas where she could sustain it outside. But then we get to the 175 to 177 arc, where we see the destruction of Knothole, and Nicole decides, you know what, I have no choice, I was waiting on this, but I'm going to do it now. She executes a plan that, not only helps Sonic and Knuckles and Amy and Tails save everybody from the egg grapes in which they were teleported into, but also the fact that, she's able to help teleport them away Because what she does is, thanks to Tails, she hacks into Eggman's systems, and just when it makes it look like Eggman's going to teleport, all of them, including Sonic, into the egg grapes, what she actually does is she causes Eggman to teleport them into the newly rebuilt new Mobotropolis, which she used the nanites from one of the previous stories to basically build. Basically, she was building new Mobotropolis over the ruins of what was known as, I think, Megalopolis or something. I can't really recall. But basically, it was where some nanites were, and she took the leftover nanites, and she was able to build and reconstruct a new Mobotropolis city for everybody to live in, for everybody to live in and be safe in, and it would allow her to maintain her Lynx form in the, on the outside. Basically, having the nanites around in the city would allow her to maintain her Lynx form outside in the real world. Like, she'd be able to walk about, not worry about having just to stay in a computer or have her face on a computer screen and stuff like that. So, that was neat to see, because that was like another step in the evolution of her character. It was another step in the evolution of how she was being presented and stuff. Now, on top of that, basically, the evolution of her character would continue, because we would start to see her even outside of that. As long as, she had some nanites and stuff to help her sustain the form, we would see it. We would see her, continue being there. And her relationship with Sally would still be close. Sally would defend her, especially when we got towards the post-Iron Dominion thing and people were unsure about, whether or not they could trust her. She would be her defense and everything. And then, of course, you have the moment where Sally sacrifices herself and Nicole is there, and feeling guilty over what happened, thinking she could have done more. Now, what's interesting is all that was part of the pre-soft reboot, the pre-reboot, if you will. A lot of that I mentioned was part of the pre-reboot. And it wouldn't be until the post-soft reboot, 252 and onwards, that we would really start seeing a connection between the two. Now, Nicole would play a key role in this. Basically, she was going to be the Deus Ex Machina to the whole situation. Like, she would be the one, as I pretty much said in one of my reviews of it and monthly opinion videos, she would be the one that would be the key of restoring everybody's memories. She would be the one. Because apparently Sonic was at the epicenter of it, so he and Eggman kept the memories. And Nicole, for some odd reason, was also unaffected, in a sense, about what happened. Because, when Naugus, tries to confront her about something, like, he's wondering what's been going on, like there was some kind of strange energy surge. What happens is when he touches her, he sees the previous world. And he's like, and it frightens him to the point that he escapes. He runs away, like he can't believe what he's seeing. And it's right there where you realize Nicole's going to play a vital role here, and that vital role is the fact that she too, like Sonic and Eggman, somehow became unaffected. She became very unaffected by it, by the Super Genesis way to restore the worlds as they were. So she became unaffected. But she, like I said, she played a key role in everybody getting the memories back. Like anybody that would touch her, boom, memories of the previous world would show up. And it would shock them. Like it happened to Tails, it happened to Rotor, it happened to Antoine, it happened to Bunny, and then of course it happened to Sally and Amy. And Sally's is the one that really affected, I think, all the characters, at once. I mean, like they remembered and everything, but Sally was the one that was hit the most by it. And it wouldn't be until, like, one of the following issues where Sally is, she's left on the ship, on the Freedom Storm, or whatever it's called, the Freedom Ship, if you will. And she's being very conflicted about what the plan out, and she's putting all this pressure on her and everything, on herself, and it's Nicole that's like, what's wrong with you? What's going on? And Sally basically explains things to her and Cream, who's also there. She has to explain that she has to make up for what she did as Mecha Sally. That because of her, a lot of lives were ruined and everything. And Nicole basically has to shut her down right there and say, whoa, stop. That wasn't you. Wake up. That wasn't you. That was a different lifetime now. Now it's time to focus here. You need to be the Sally that encouraged Dulcie and Loop. That's who you need to be. And that's enough, basically, the encouraging words from Nicole to basically snap Sally out of the fact that, hey, what you did in that previous world, in that previous life, is a non-factor now. You need to focus on what you did in this world. And again, that's enough to wake Sally up. And she's like, you're right, I need to do this. You're right. And it established that strong connection to where Nicole had to snap her out of it. She had to snap her out of it and all that. And ever since then, the friendship between the two has been very close-knit. Very close-knit. And the way basically it was presented mostly was, thoroughly, I should say, was in Spark of Life. When, it's centered on Nicole's origins. It was a 4-part deal on Sonic Universe. But it really kind of hammered home the fact that there was something more between Sally and Nicole than was being led on. And like I said, Ian Flynn, during an interview, said that he was surprised of how blatantly they got away with it. Like, just the way things were presented, they were surprised how blatant it was of how they were displaying this close affectionateness, between Sally and Nicole. Unlike unlike the other previous stories, I guess pre-reboot or something like that. But yeah, stories like Spark of Life and some of the main stories as well, kind of really focused on the fact that the friendship between the two was more than just a friendship. And Spark of Life really drove that home. It really did. But yeah, Nicole, for some odd reason, pre-reboot, post-reboot, or pre-soft reboot, post-soft reboot, is considered a love interest of Sally's because of the way things were presented. And a lot of fans, looking back at the post-soft reboot issues and even some of the pre-ones, are like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I can see exactly what he's talking about. Because it is kind of like right there in front of you. You just don't really realize it until it's too late, if you catch my drift. It's like you don't see it or realize it till it's like too late or until somebody points it out to you. But yeah, Nicole obviously, was presented along with Sally in the new post-soft reboot retcon as LGBTQ bisexual. And obviously the friendship between the two was something more. It was something more. It's just, they didn't, but here's the thing. Ian Flynn didn't get a chance to explore that because unfortunately the comic was canceled. The partnership between Archie and Sega ended. Now, had they just carried on the stories to the IDW book instead of doing something completely new, then yeah, I think he probably would have continued it. I think he would have done it. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they plan to do in the future if they decide to go that direction. I mean, we have Archie Sonic Online if they want to try to do it themselves. But still, with Spark of Life and some of the moments in pre-soft reboot issues and post-soft reboot issues, obviously showed that there was something more between Sally and Nicole, more so in the post-soft reboot issues, than just a friendship. And it was a surprise, and that was a huge surprise. I will admit that. It was a huge, huge surprise. But anyway, though, guys, that's going to do it for Nicole. And we have a bonus. That's right. It's not a love life, but it's a bonus on Sally's love life. All right. So the bonus is a little interesting because it's more fan-oriented than anything. But, the 4 that I mentioned, I stand by them. Because, when you get the last one coming from the words of Ian Flynn as being something that was blatant, then yeah, I think it has to be in that category. But when we look at this bonus section, we're looking at more of the fan-oriented relationships. And I can tell you honestly, the fan-oriented ones are more adult in nature than you want to imagine. Yeah, they are. They are more adult in nature than you want to imagine, because some of the love life that, the fans give Sally, goes beyond the ones that I just talked about. And I mean far beyond them. For example, there's a story on fanfiction.net called Sweet Royal Love. It's under the mature settings. And the reason it's called Sweet Royal Love, and like I said, it's under the mature settings, is it focuses on Sally starting a relationship with her mom. Yeah, I'm not joking. Alicia Acorn, the way fans portray her sometimes in fan works, web comics, adult web comics precisely at times, or even written stories. Yeah, Alicia, she is a top-rated MILF, as they call it, or MILF. She's a top-rated MILF. And apparently the person behind this story decided what would happen if we put Sally and her mom together as an item. And they did. They went there. Now, true, they included other characters to be part of it in their own way, like Nicole, like Rosemary. Well, not Rosemary, but Rosie, the nanny, if you will. Nicole, Rosie, Tails, Elias. I think there could have been more. But they involved a lot. They involved a lot of other characters, but the main romance was between Sally and her mom, Alicia. Yeah, incense, if you can believe it. But it wasn't just, Alicia either. There was stories, adult-oriented, of Sally and Amy. Like there's a webcomic called The Forbidden Fruit, where both of them get together very intimately because some kind of fruit or something like that causes these unexplained feelings to come out towards, from them towards each other, and they just, get it on from there. There's other ones with her and Nicole, her and Bunny, them as a threesome. But the most popular out of it is Tails. I'm not joking. Tails is one of the more popular ones because of the fact that when you look at some of the stories adult-wise that he's involved in, it blows your mind. It does. It blows your mind literally of exactly how far they go with Tails. You want to know how far? One fan had to rewrite one of his original stories and make it a little bit more detailed and extended. Because the original one he did fine, but he included an incense moment between Tails and his mom, Rosemary. But it was in that story, as well as in the remake, and other stories as well. Like there's one by Gavin Elias, or Gavin, by a guy named Gavis Elias, if you will, called Aunt Sally. Sally's Fun, where it involved Tails and Sally. And then, like I said, in these two other stories that you can find at fanfiction.net, Tails ends up basically getting it on with Sally a couple of times. And possibly doing a little bit more than just getting it on from an intimacy standpoint. But yeah, Sally's had relationships with Tails too. Because he's like I said, he's the most popular character, if you will, to go through this. He is. He is the most popular character to go through this. And it blows my mind. It really blows my mind when I hear about that kind of stuff. But yeah, she's had other love interests. She has had other love interests outside of Tails, outside of, not outside of that, but she's had other love interests outside of, Tails, of course, like I said, the ones I mentioned, but she's had other love interests outside of Nicole, Monkey Khan, Sonic, and Jeffrey, but from a fan-oriented adult standpoint. if you can believe it. But anyway, though, guys, that's going to do it for the bonus here. And that's about it. So in conclusion, guys, basically the whole video, the ending is going to be at, when you hear this ending, it's at the end of the whole video, all parts together as a whole. You won't hear it at the end of the other ones, but yeah, as a whole video, but like I said, as a whole video, I want to thank you guys for listening to this. Again, all these are being filmed today on the last day of November. The whole video, all the parts together, is being listened to and watched today by you guys here on December 22nd. But the individual parts are already up there. But again, I want to thank you guys for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know how you feel about all the love interest, if you will, the love life that Sally has had. How do you feel about them? Comment below. Live chat during the premieres, during the premiere of this video, and hopefully you've live chatted during the premieres of the other ones. Let me know what your thoughts are. And check me out at BW Rose's Discussions at all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out at BW Rose's on VENMO. Check me out at my Teespring store for holiday items and gifts you may want to get there, even if it's a little late. Also check me out at BW Roses on Patreon, as well as at Venmo to help donate in one of those areas if you choose. So until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later.